The most challenging part for me was probably the writing. I am definitely an actor who likes to rely on a script. And so getting my ideas and my story onto paper was kind of difficult in figuring out the best way to tell my character story because I saw a story. And so the frustration of having all these crazy, awesome ideas, but not being able to funnel them into what I wanted to actually say was probably the most difficult part.
The most difficult part of the process for me was just filming in general. The first day that I tried to film, I tripped and knocked over my part of my backdrop and broke it. So that was kind of a problem. And just in general, I was working in a really tight space. So it was difficult to make sure that I was properly in the shot, but like my bed or my desk wasn't, and make sure that everything looked right. It was pretty difficult to film.
The most challenging part of the process for me was having to be my own director of photography. I've never done any work in photography or filming before, so I learned a lot through trial and mostly error with the filming process. Specifically, I found it really difficult to maneuver the camera in angles which worked with my mirror, which is a very important part of my monologue.
The most challenging part was definitely filming and being alone during it, because I didn't really have this second eye to make sure that I was recording, because I did a lot of takes where I thought I was recording, but it didn't record. So I would say that.
My most challenging part was the filming. The other part seemed so much easier because we had so much guidance and help every step of the way, but we just kind of had to go from our own for the last bit. And I had my dad help me, and I had to try to explain to him what to do when I didn't know what I was doing. So yeah, that was the most challenging part for me.
Definitely the most challenging part was the filming, especially doing it completely independently. It definitely like took more time than I thought it would, and more focus on the details than I was anticipating, especially since I was, the one going from the seat back to the camera to the seat, and just having to check for all those very little things and making sure that I got the perfect shot and I wanted this exactly how I had envisioned it.
For me, the most challenging part was the on location, because for my film, it was at a bus stop and it was very small and compact. So I got frustrated when certain shots didn't work just because of how small the space was. But when I overcame that, it was super fulfilling.
For me, the most challenging part was definitely the filming. Trying to get the right shots, trying to get the lighting to work and work the way it was supposed to, was difficult.
Going into the project, I already kind of knew that filming was going to be a little more difficult for me just because I'm not the most tech savvy. But I was really surprised to find that I was feeling very challenged trying to stay flexible, just with my portrait being very clear to me in what the story there was. It was really hard for me to not kind of put myself into a box that way.
I think the most challenging parts for me was definitely when it came to filming. There's things I had to adapt, and it wasn't the way I pictured it in my head, and also the anxiety of filming by myself and, well, with family, but filming with my limited knowledge and trying to make sure it all worked.
One of my favorite parts was probably the filming of it. I waited until it was evening, so we had complete control over the lights. My cousin was able to help me out, and she considers herself somewhat of a film student. And so she kept correcting me if I was in the wrong position and it didn't line up with the continuity of it. And it was a lot of fun to just get the filming done and actually be able to get it all up on its feet and actually perform like I would in any other show.
My favorite part was the process of writing it because I really like creative writing in general. And for this specific project, I was writing based on a real person, and she had a really, really interesting life. So it was really cool to get to find out a lot of information about her and then see how I could fit that into my work. So that was really fun.
My favorite part of the process was also writing my monologue. The first thing I could ever remember wanting to be when I grew up was a playwright, and this experience reminded me why I fell in love with writing and theater. Also, I loved being able to use my artistic voice to comment on society.
My favorite part definitely was the end of the writing process, and I got to hear everyone's monologue, including my own, where it came from to where it lived its beautiful life. And at the end, it was just great to hear everyone's final piece.
My favorite part was when I received like the costume and props that the people at the U of R worked on. Like that's really fun and just a regular play. And since we got to have a lot more say on what happened, seeing what we imagined, like we told them what we wanted and how they made it even better than I would have thought of, was really fun.
Definitely my favorite part was getting my costume and getting my set dropped off very generously, might I add, and trying on my costume for the first time because there's something special about seeing something that you've been planning for kind of come to the moment where you get to perform, where you get to show what you've done. And getting a costume always solidifies that for me. And this one, more than anything, with how gorgeous it was, it definitely made things very exciting.
Mine was definitely the beginning of the creation process, like just spewing out idea over idea and like morphing them all into the final product and also creating the character with what emotions does he have, how does he dress? Well, we know how he dresses from the portrait, but like how would he wear that on his skin?
My favorite part of the process was the writing of the monologue. Working with Kelly Jo Burke, she's just incredible.
It's really hard to kind of like narrow down what like my favorite part was because I've always really enjoyed creative writing, so I already knew I was going to really enjoy that. But I was pleasantly surprised to enjoy myself filming because it was definitely not ever something I thought I would do. I'm very like traditional theater, Broadway, that's all I want to do. But now I'm kind of weighing my options a little bit, which is nice.
My favorite part is I got the freedom to make a pretty big prop for my project, and I love to create and I love taking like pool noodles and make it into something, and I love that process, and was so excited to get to do that for this project.